Can you hear me? Hello. I'm also going to go live on my Instagram. Welcome to the Family Feud. Ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba, ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-ba. Oh, I love the Family Feud. I am such a game show girly. And so to be doing this really just makes my heart smile. Um, your version is even better. Thanks, friend. I'm gonna send a recording to the producers and be like, I think I should just use my voice, okay, and not the 50-year recording of the song that you have. But hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. For folks who don't know me, I am Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins, and I am a two-time game show contestant. And I think that's really cool. So that's always going to be my interesting fact. My interesting fact is always going to be that I have been on two national game shows, and that seems very bucket listy. So just to give you some context behind game shows and why they matter to me, and I'll be looking here because my notes are here, but I've always loved game shows. Game shows is memory for me. Game shows are very nostalgic for me. They were always in my house. So my parents are baby boomers, so they always had game show password, match game. I'm talking about real vintage game shows were always on in my house. And so it just allowed for me to take it in. It's also because I grew up very kind of in the early years, very strict Christian home. So we want a whole lot of nothing else going on. You hear me? It was gospel music, game shows, and my mama stories. All my children, to be exact. So there was not a whole lot of other contents and media and the news, of course, being portrayed in my house. So this game shows really was something that resonated for me. They were fun, they were light. And what I know now in retrospect, game shows for everyday people. It is not scripted. Not the RA training committee joining me from Bridgewater State University. Shout out to y'all. Antoinese, it was Family Feud and Pressure Luck. Pressure Luck is the other game show that I was on in 2024, which is a great experience. So I shot that in LA, and that has already aired. So season 6, episode 3, Pressure Luck is the other game show that I was on. So when I think about my love for game shows, it is the fun that I have. It's the everyday people. And it's something that already is nostalgic for me because that is something that was on in my house all of the time. Family Feud being one of those game shows. Richard Dawson. I remember kind of even watching old episodes of Richard Dawson and the different Rays as hosts. And so, of course, Steve Harvey is the longest running host. But Family Feud, even with the previous hosts, have always, I remember them very, very clearly. So I've been watching. It's 50 years old, celebrating 50 years, but past episodes, reruns, things of that nature was always in my house. And it's something that allowed our family to also gather and bond. Sitting on the couch, sitting on someone's bed, watching these game shows is a good feeling that I like to recall to memory. So yeah, that is a little bit about me and my tie to game shows and why they mean so much to me, and why I kind of, like I said, identify as being a game show girly. And because I recently shot an episode or recently was on the Family Feud game and was able to go down to Atlanta and record and be on set and meet Steve Harvey and play the game. The episode has not aired yet. So I cannot tell you the outcomes, but I can tell you that we were there. So you're going to have to wait till February, but we are on this season coming up, this 50th season. So, or this 50th year celebration. They have already put out the advertisement for the 50th year. The season starts in September and it will run all the way into 2027. So, our episode, we were told, will air around February. But again, if you join my newsletter, my email newsletter, then you will see and be the first to know when when the episode airs. So like when the producer sends us the email, I'm sending the email to my email community. So let me go ahead and put the link in the chat so that you can, if you're not a subscriber, you can subscribe to my newsletter and follow me in this Family Feud journey. So I am putting it in the chat right now. We are on YouTube Live. We're also on Instagram Live. So shout out to everybody in both places. Hi. But this will live on my YouTube if you ever want to come back and watch it, or if your application gets chosen. Okay. We love that. If your application gets chosen, you can always come back here for tips as well. So because our application was chosen and because we were selected and went down to Atlanta to record Family Feud, as soon as I saw the advertisement and the promotion and that Family Feud said that their auditioning process is officially open, I wanted to go ahead and allow myself to just provide my audition experience and give some tips. We applied and got selected on the first try. So I don't take that lightly. There are people who put in applications every year. There are people who never get selected. There are people who wait. There are people who just play the game for their couch and may not even think that they can audition and that they're good enough to audition. So this is really an opportunity for me to share my personal experience and some tips if you are interested in putting in an application for Family Feud. All right, so let's get started. So first, finding the casting ad back in 2023. So if you go on their Facebook, if you go on their TikTok, if you go on any Family Feud social media right now, you will see the recent posts that they have auditions. Auditions are live. The application is open. This is the casting team letting you know that it is time to start looking at families to bring on for Family Feud. The timeline, we'll get to that a little later, but they have let you know. So if you do, I'm like, I never can find it. Follow all of the Family Feud social media pages. That's my first tip. You also want to follow Fremantle, I believe, is the production company for Family Feud. It is imperative. That's the thing. We have to you're going to hear me say this over and over and over again. While Family Feud is a great game show and we love playing it from home, before it is a game show, it is a production. It is a television production. And so there is a production company, Fremantle USA, I believe, and they're tagged on, they're a collaborator on Instagram on the Family Feud post. So if you go to the Family Feud Instagram and you see the post about auditions, that's the production company that is tagged on them. So you really want to make sure that you are following the production company as well, because it's not just the production company of Family Feud. The same production company that does Family Feud is the one that does Pressure Luck. It is so many game shows under that one production company. So don't just follow Family Feud, especially if you're a game show person like me. You want to follow the production company. So back in 2023, I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw the same ad that's out right now. It's literally the same picture they use every year. I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to apply, because why not? Why not us? Why not the Robbins family? So I said, yeah, we're going to go ahead and apply. I told this to myself. I did not mention it to my husband. I did not mention it to my family members. I said, I am going to apply for my family to be on Family Feud back in 2023. So I also, they also have official websites of these game shows. Again, we see these game shows from our couch. But these are people's full-fledged jobs. They have official websites, they have official information. So I went to the website to be like, okay, is this like legit? And they were absolutely holding auditions and doing casting for Family Feud. So I opened up the application. Now, I am the person who is always looking at casting opportunities for game shows. Again, I love the fact that game shows just allow everyday people to be on national television and to share their story. And if you know anything about me, you know that's my jam. So when I looked at the application, I wanted to review it. There are multiple parts. One, there is a written part to the application. So if you are going to think about applying, you have to move your brain to multiple formats, multiple methods. When you open up the application, it's very important to read every question carefully, because you want to make sure that not only are you understanding what the production company is asking of you, but you really want to start thinking of creative ways. There are parts of the application that's like, baby, this is strict. Okay, this is not the part where you get creative. And then there are other parts, these open-ended questions about you and your family that allow for you to kind of have some more creation. So you really want to start thinking strategically and reading the full application before you just start going in with answers. This allows you to be intentional. This allows you to you're not just answering questions, you're asking, what makes our family memorable? What story are producers going to remember? You already need to be thinking about television when you open the application. You ain't just on the couch no more. The moment you decide that you want to apply to be on Family Feud, or that you want to audition for this game show, you have to start thinking like a television producer. That's my number one tip. From the very beginning, stop thinking like a contestant and start thinking like television. So, those are two questions that really stand out. What makes our family memorable? And what story are producers going to remember? Because that is what's going to make them curious enough to see if they want to take you to the next phase. So, this is where people miss. Family Feud isn't just answering survey questions. It's not just being funny, because we got the clips where everybody's like funny, and they have those clips where they say something like porcupine, or, you've seen the clips of people giving silly answers. It's not just about being funny. It's not just about winning money. Winning money is a great part of this game. But again, we are in the application process. We are in the audition process. This process is not just about winning money. It's also about producers, assistant producers, casting, ratings, entertainment. This is a television production. And so they're making television through a game show. They're not just looking for funny people to answer questions. So if you understand that you're just not casting people who can play, this ain't theater, boo. You feel me? This ain't theater. They're casting people who we want to watch. And that's very important. The people want to be entertained, okay? They want to be entertained. They want to have audience connection. And we really want people to hit play. We really want people. Now, people are probably going to watch the game show because it's Family Feud and Steve Harvey. But like, what keeps people coming back are the everyday guests. So now you have your written application. You have the application to this game show. You've been thinking about those questions. You've been thinking about what's memorable. You've been thinking about what stands out about your family. So I knew our biggest story wasn't, I love Family Feud. While it is nostalgic for me, y'all know what I'm gonna do? Give me 1 second. I realized, side note, Facebook is really where the people be. If we're being honest, Facebook is really where the people be. So I think I'm going to go on Facebook Live so that folks can join me through there too. Because, honey, let me tell you, the Gen X's and the baby boomers, baby, they be on Facebook every day, all day. Shout out to all of my Gen Xers and my baby boomers. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go live on Facebook. Okay, so now we are live on YouTube and on Facebook, but again, all of this will live on YouTube. So for my people who are just joining, hello. Okay, so here's where we are. We have got the application open. Our story was not, oh, I love Family Feud. While Family Feud was nostalgic for me, millions of people love Family Feud. That's why it's one of the longest running game shows of all time. That's not enough. Everybody says that they love Family Feud. Everybody says that they love Steve Harvey. I can guarantee it. You want to make sure that your story is unique, personal to you, and is also memorable. So our story was, we are a blended family. Me and my husband met in high school, but see, here's kind of how you have to grab their attention. We met in high school, but he friend zoned me. And they'll be like, oh, friend zone. Tell me more about that. Why he friend zone you? This is things that get the producers curious about your story. Then he also slid in my DMs 15 years later. That's another story point to be like, ooh, tell me more. That makes me curious. So what in your family has that ability to grab that attention and for folks to be like, ooh, okay, I like that. I want to hear more about that. That's what you have to be thinking, because that story, not just I love Family Feud, but the story about being a blended family, how we met, we were high schools, we were friends in high school, we had crushes on each other. That story has humor, it has curiosity, it has personality, right? So I have my version, he has his version. Both of our personalities can shine. And it has something that Steve Harvey could immediately talk about. The job of a host is to keep the conversation going the entire time, keep the show going the entire time. So our story standing out as being of how we met, and he slid in my DMs 15 years later, and we have this blended family now. That is easy. That is low-hanging fruit for Steve Harvey to be able to pick that up and run with it. So that's the story that I decided to lead the written application with. So once again, if you're just joining, everybody loves Family Feud. Everybody loves Steve Harvey. That is not the thing that's going to make you stick out on the written application. The producers want to see your story and make it humorous, make them curious. Now, the second part of the application is what I would argue is the most important part of this process. It is the video part of the application. So Family Feud, the producers specifically, casting producers specifically, want to see you already on camera. They want to see how you shine, how you show up. And for me, the video part is the fun part. That's the part where I know they really get to see my personality. They get to hear my voice. They get to feel my energy. And for other people, that might make you very, 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 very nervous. I understand it. I get it wholeheartedly, right? But the video application is gold. Like that is where it really is your time to shine. So I already knew I enjoy being on camera when I have to be. If you know me, you know I'm introverted, but I do realize that I enjoy being on camera. I speak professionally anyway, and I have a high energy level. I know these things. So I leaned into that for the video application. But I also made sure that the video reinforced what I was putting into the written application. So it wasn't just about, hey, this is me. I'm Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins. It was just like, hey, this is me. And here's my story. I met my boo here, reinforcing what I had put in the written application. We are a blended family. I told the story briefly. We met in high school. He friends on me, slid in my DMs later. And now we have this beautiful Black blended family of 4 girls. That took what, 10 seconds, but they were able to hear me kind of say the story, because when you are talking to Steve Harvey, you're not reading from your written application. They need to know, how are you speaking about your story? And that's what they get a taste of that from the video part of the application. So you really want to make sure that the video application is where they're getting your personality, and where they are also getting your story and how you share the story. Oh, hi Tay. Welcome. Okay. Don't just state facts, tell them the story. Your personality matters on the video portion of this application, because the producers are not just evaluating your family, they're imagining, once again, it's a TV production. They are imagining, what will this person look like on national television? That is the question that keeps revolving in their head. So, I know the camera may scare you. I know speaking out loud may scare you. But if you're also the same person who says, I want to be on Family Feud, I want to be casted on a national television show, both of those things are not going to be able to coexist. So, let me give you some practical camera tips that will allow you to lean in if the camera confidence is not natural for you. Here are some practical tips. 1, start with voice notes. The voice notes on your phone is a really good way to start listening to hear how your voice sounds. To start thinking about, when do you pause? When does your voice volume go up? When do you get quieter? What does your breath work look like and sound like? This is what voice notes really help you to do. So if you're like, babe, I'm not at camera confidence yet. 1, you're going to have to be if you want to be on Family Feud. And then 2, start with voice notes. Then once you get used to hearing yourself, you need to record yourself talking on your phone. It can be a video that you just watch of yourself, but in order to build that camera confidence, you need to see yourself on camera. And we have our phones. That is the easiest way to go ahead and begin seeing yourself on camera, because the camera is going to be there multiple times if you make it to set. So start with voice notes, then move up to recording yourself. Then watch it back. I know. It's not the part that I like either. But when we watch the thing that we just recorded back, we are able to practice smiling, practice our energy, practice eye contact. These are things that the producers are looking for when they are thinking about contestants. And if you're like, I don't really smile, my energy not really that high. If you want to be on Family Feud, baby, you're going to have to give something. So practice smiling, practice energy, practice clapping, practice eye contact. These are practical tips that you can do if your camera confidence is not up and they start looking for this in the video application. So the biggest takeaway, if I could give you one piece of advice for the application, it is that the written part of your application is what gets you noticed, but the video part of the application is what producers imagine you for television. So both need to be strong, both need to be intentional. So now that's the application. So now we want to talk about what happens after you submit the application. Because one, I realize that your heart is probably pumping. Your heart is probably pumping when you are completing the game show application, let alone after you submit it. So, right before you submit your game show application, or in this case, the Family Feud application, you want to review everything: your email address, your phone number, the names, the spelling of your name. And at the application, they're not necessarily asking you for your team yet. So you don't have to kind of worry about that part quite yet. But you don't want to let a typo be the thing that costs you this opportunity. So absolutely make sure that, like Kiki Palmer says on Password, so you better be sure. That's when they have a tiebreaker. Anyways, like I said, I love game shows. But you better be sure that the information, the logistical information, not the stories, the actual contact information is legit. So I hit submit. This is back in August, the same time, August of 2023 is when we did our Family Feud, is when I submitted the Family Feud application. So oh, hi, Miss Burrows. Nice to see you. So I submitted our application. Listen, I hit submit, I gave it to God, I kept it moving, because what are the I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's such a high probability. I mean, it's such a low probability that you're going to get selected for this game show. So I just chalked it up and I said, if it's supposed to be, if it's supposed to happen, it will happen. I did not refresh my email every 5 minutes. I didn't keep trying to, keep looking to see who applied and looking at the comments. No, I just hit submit and I said, if our story is the story that's supposed to be on Family Feud, then it will get selected. And I kept it moving. So let's talk about the waiting period. So in my experience, I submitted the application August of 2023. I heard back October of 2023. So roughly 60 days later is when I got the email that they had saw our application for Family Feud and that they were interested in the next part. Because Family Feud it has so many episodes, it needs so many families. So they are constantly looking at your application. They're constantly looking at applications, kind of rolling basis, if you will. So it only took about 60 days for me to hear back. I still remember the day. I think I was literally in the living room and I got the email and like my heart stopped and my breath stopped. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is Family Feud. I can't believe it. Like they reached out to us. They saw our application. So the only person that I told at that time was my husband, because I mean he was right there and I was very excited. I did not tell the rest of my family because I didn't want well, let me say this first. When I submitted it, I told them after we got the email, but I did not tell my family when I submitted it. Cuz I didn't want people getting overly excited for us, you know what I'm saying, getting people anxious and nervous when if we were not even going to get selected. So I did not tell when I hit submit, I did not tell my family. I only told my husband. But then in October, we got the email. Well, I got the email, and that's the other thing to be mindful about. The person who submits the application for Family Feud is the only point of contact and the main point of contact for that family. So I'm the one who got the email, although we know clearly Family Feud has 5 people on the team. So what that email said was, we want to meet you. We want to meet your family. We want to have you come on to do a Zoom audition for Family Feud. And that is when we got extremely excited. That is when I was like, okay, I can tell my family now. I can tell my family that about this Family Feud application and audition because they now want to meet more than just me. So, one thing that I noticed, the turnaround is not that long. Like I said, they're looking at so many families all of the time. They have so many episodes and they have to have alternates. You never know what just happens with logistics. So, they need a lot of families, and that was encouraging. So, that turnaround time was very, very quick. Okay, so now it is time to build the team. When you come onto that Zoom audition for Family Feud, they are expecting to meet the people who you are saying you want to be the team that's on TV. So I knew at that moment I had to let my family know that this was an opportunity. So I knew my mother would probably be interested. My husband's mother would probably be interested. So I called them first and I was like, guess what? We just got an email for Family Feud. And they were like, huh? When did that even happen? I was like, I put in the application about 2 months ago and we got invited to a Zoom audition. So everyone was very excited. My husband was automatically on the team because duh. You see what I'm saying? Like not me giving the whole story of how we met and got married in the application and then he not be on the team. No, 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 no. So my husband was automatically in. And then both of our moms were in. So that was 4. So that left one more slot to make up our team of 5. I have one sister, my husband has one sister. And so we were like, let's ask both of them because that would be the next person in line. Okay. Again, our fathers, they were not going to, no, our daddies are not going to be on Family Feud. Like, if you know, like, the papas are not going to be on. So we already knew we weren't going to ask them. So I was like, okay, let's ask our sisters. So I asked my sister, he asked his sister, and they both declined, actually. So that left one more slot open on our team. And so we're like, is anyone interested? And my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, was the one who was just like, I want to be on the team. So we were like, bet. We now have our Family Feud team of 5. Now, what Family Feud does say is you need to have 5 people, and they send you an email before the Zoom audition. You have to tell them who these people are and how they are related to you. Now, they do offer an opportunity for you to have an alternate person. If you are bringing in a 6th person who is an alternate, that 6th person also needs to be available for the Zoom audition. So we were comfortable with our 5. So we just submitted our 5. So everything worked out so smoothly for us choosing the team for Family Feud. But I also recognize that everyone's family experience may not be that smooth when choosing your team as who is going to be on Family Feud. So here is my biggest tip for choosing your team, because again, we are not on the show yet. We are just at the audition process. We have made it through the application, so that's great. Now it's time for step 2, and that is the Zoom audition. This is another place where people make mistakes in auditioning for game shows. The funniest uncle, the smartest cousin, your favorite auntie may not be the best person for the team. I know Uncle Junior has watched every episode of Family Feud. I know Auntie Lisa is the family person who makes everybody laugh. I know. But listen, this is still a game show for television. This is a television show that is built by casting. Just like a TV show or a movie, a scripted one, that they have to audition and find the right people for that character. This is the same thing, but for game shows. You are building a cast. Hear me. You are building a cast. Yes, they are your family, but the producers are seeing it as who is being casted for this show. So you need to look for people with personality, energy, who has a story, humor, charismatic, people who naturally respond. Because producers are watching all of that. And now that you're going to be on Zoom, let me tell you, there's about 20 people on that call for the Zoom audition. You're not going to see all of the producers because they have their cameras off and their cameras are hidden, but they are there and they are watching. They have multiple producers on the Zoom audition, and each producer is tasked with looking for something different. So one producer might be on you. The other producer might be on your mom. The other producer might be looking for energy. The other producer might be looking for how quick you respond. So you can't just be putting people in your family who just watch the game show on the couch. That's not enough. You are building a cast. Now, that does not mean, shout out to all my quiet family members. That does not mean that quiet family people, like quiet people in your family cannot be selected. That's not what that means. But you better be sure, like Keke Palmer says, you better be sure that everyone in your family for this Zoom audition that you are choosing can contribute something. Maybe they have a funny story, a unique talent. Maybe they have an interesting personality, a memorable connection. I'm not saying you have to be the loudest one in the room. But I am saying that you need to be memorable if you are quiet, if a more quiet or reserved person, because everyone should bring the producers something to work with. Because once again, you are building a cast. So now we're being invited to the Zoom audition. You now have your family. Family Feud is going to ask you to select a captain. All of this stuff is important during the audition process because the more sound and the more comfortable you are with your team and who's captain and playing what role, the easier it's going to feel, the more comfortable it's going to feel when it's time to audition. So, this is another honest conversation. The person who filled out the Family Feud application may not actually be the best captain. I know. You have to be honest with that. The captain needs to be the person who introduces everyone. The captain answers questions. The captain is having the most conversation and banter with Steve Harvey. The captain keeps information organized. They remember the instructions because, again, the captain is now going to be the main point of contact for all the logistics, the operations. And so if you're not a person who can keep order or is very organized or checks their emails, y'all, please don't make the captain the person who don't check their email. You're not going to get far in this process. The producers are talking to the captain the most. So you just can't, if somebody be like, I want to be a captain, that's not enough to get booked. You need to have a captain who is charismatic, who remembers instructions, who communicates with production, who is comfortable talking and has an energy about them that can really carry the team, if you will. So that has to be when you select a captain before the Zoom audition. When you send that paper back to these producers, you need to choose. It's based off of strengths. It's not based off of ego. It's not based off of ego. And sometimes that can be a hard pill to swallow. But if you're trying to get casted, you gotta keep these things in mind. So, like I said, you have to submit 5 people. You have to submit the name of your captain. If you do want to have an alternate and have 6 people that are on the Zoom audition, they do absolutely allow you to do that. All right. So, now it's time to prepare for the Zoom audition. We've gone through the written application, we've gone through the video application. We are now time for the Zoom audition. When you are preparing for the Zoom audition, Family Feud actually tells you how to prepare. They are going to give you instructions. They're going to tell you what we're going to do. They're going to say, all right, before you come on, we need you to practice your introductions. That time when Steve Harvey says, tell me a little bit about yourself, you're going to need to be able to have your introduction ready and rehearsed before enough for the Zoom interview, because you're going to do a full introduction. And if we're honest, the Zoom audition is actually where you have the longest time to talk about yourself, because we're not on the clock like that. So you're maybe on the show, you only talk for 2 or 3 minutes, but in the Zoom audition, they want to know more about you before they cast you. So you might be talking quite literally for like 8 minutes about yourself. So you want to practice introductions. You want to practice telling your story. You want to also practice playing the game. The Zoom audition for Family Feud also plays a game in real time on Zoom. So one of the favorite family memories that we had before our Zoom audition is that we invited everyone over for pizza and to play the game. Melvin was in town. My brother-in-law was in town. He lives in Charlotte. We live in Clayton. So we were like, okay, if you're in town, let's see if we can capitalize on this. So we invited everyone over and we played Family Feud for hours. And let me tell you something, playing in your living room when the game is not on is much, much harder than answering the questions on your couch with the TV show. So, my biggest practice tip for the Zoom audition, or practice tip if you're thinking about applying to be on Family Feud, is that you don't just practice the answers. That's where people get it kind of messed up here. They're like, it's not just about the survey. You have to practice being a family for TV. You have to practice cheering. You have to practice clapping. You have to practice saying, good answer, good answer. Like, you need to be so ready to shout good answer at any moment. I know you, but oh, that just sounds silly, screaming good answer in my living room. You need to be comfortable saying good answer in your living room, because when it's time for the Zoom audition, they are going to be seeing how you cheer for each other, which also means you probably got to like each other with the team that you select. I know, I know. I feel like I got to say it. You need to like the people who are going to be on your team. So, because the producers are not only looking for whether you know the answer, they're looking for chemistry with your family, interaction, encouragement, personality, joy. These things have to come across on Zoom in order for them to see if you are ready for television. So, the biggest lesson here is that every stage is another audition: the application, the video, the team selection, the Zoom. Every time the producers see you, they're asking, can we picture this family on TV? You're going to hear me say that over and over and over again. Okay, so the Zoom audition is still an audition. We did really well on the Zoom audition. We literally got off of that call. I was like, that felt good. Like, not only did we play the game, we really had really good chemistry. But here's something that I want everyone to remember: you're not just playing the game, you're still auditioning. Every interaction matters. So every family member gets to introduce themselves. I told you that you have to practice your introduction before you get on the Zoom audition, because they're going to ask you to tell them more about yourself. You get more time on the Zoom audition than you do on TV, and the producers are going to send the prompts. But here's a tip: don't just wing your story. You may realize, like, yeah, I know my story because I lived this life, until it's time for you to actually say your story on camera. So don't just wing it. Know the highlights. Know what's funny about your story. Know what's memorable about your story. You need to bring the energy, even if your family is spread across different houses. So while we did our audition, me and Jordan were the only people in my house. We had my mother in her house. We had my mother-in-law in her house. Melvin was in Charlotte. So we were not even in the same cities. So we had to make sure that we brought the energy on Zoom, even without us being in the same space. That's very important. If you make it to the Zoom audition, you have to be able to cheer, smile, celebrate, laugh, even when you're not even in the same space. And that has to come across on Zoom. Another tip when you're playing the game for the Zoom audition: always have an answer. One of the biggest mistakes is silence. If it is your turn, say something. The producers, anything. Family Feud is a very fast game. You only have a few seconds before you get buzzed. So you really want to make sure that when it is your time on the Zoom audition, you are saying something. The producers want to know, how do you react under pressure? How do you react when you have a clock up against you? Sometimes, and you've seen this, sometimes the funniest television moments happen because someone blurts out something that's completely unexpected or not even tied to the question. But whether it is right or wrong, it's better than dead air. And trust me, as a person who is a broadcast journalism major, dead air is the worst thing you can have. Silence is like the worst thing you can have. So here's my tip: don't become known as the person who freezes. I'm not saying that you're going to have an answer every single time for every single question, right? We do see the people who get buzzers. But if you're constantly the person who doesn't have an answer, if you're constantly the person who gets buzzed, then you're going to become associated with that. And the producers are like, we want the game to keep going. We don't want it to be constant dead air, constant silence. So don't become known as the person who freezes. You want to become known as the person who goes for it. Give some type of answer. You see what I'm saying? Like, even if it's wild, they're going to be like, that's good for TV. So pay attention also to the board. So if you make it to the Zoom audition, there is a board where it literally looks like the Family Feud game show board. And they have a person on the background who is moving that board on Zoom. So you are playing the real game for the producers as an audition, but just on Zoom. So you need to pay attention to the board. Like, one of our practice questions for the Zoom audition was something like, name the top 5 drinks. Or like, we surveyed 100 people, and what are the top 5 drinks, or something like that. Something very simple. Someone answered beer. Now, if the board flips over and the board says alcohol, then when it's the next person's turn, don't say wine. You see what I'm saying? Because beer, wine, liquor, champagne, all of that is alcohol. So you're going to waste your turn, and you're going to make your family get an X because you did not pay attention to the board. Or Steve Harvey is going to say, or the producer in this case, they're going to say, already up there. And one time, funny, okay, cool. But don't become known as the person who's not paying attention. That's not going to get you casted. You see what I'm saying? So make sure that you pay attention to the board when you are on the Zoom audition. Also, on the Zoom audition, you're going to meet the producers. This is your first glimpse as a potential contestant. This is your first glimpse behind the scenes. Let me tell you something. I have to say this out loud. You're not meeting Steve Harvey in the audition. Okay? You literally do not meet Steve Harvey until the camera is rolling for the live show. So, like, even when you get on set, you do not see Steve Harvey. You meet Steve Harvey when he is asking you, tell me about yourself for the live recording that will make it on television. So when you are in your Zoom audition, you're not meeting Steve Harvey, you're meeting the producers. And honestly, for real, you need to show them love. Honestly, the producers are the people you really want to make a good impression with. The producers are honestly the people you really want to know, because they're the ones casting the show, not Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is doing his thing, living his life, honey. They're the one casting the show. This is their real job. So they are watching everything. So even if you only see one or two people on the Zoom screen, you need to know, trust me, that there are a lot of producers behind the scene that are watching you. Now, you know how we talked about getting comfortable with the camera for the video application, like the camera on your phone. When you make it to the Zoom audition, you also need to get comfortable with a webcam. I know. If you're like, not only am I not comfortable on camera with a phone, now I got to be comfortable on camera on a computer. Yes, you do. If you want to have a good chance of being casted on Family Feud, you have to get comfortable with the webcam, this thing right here. Because if you're the person at work who has their camera off all the time, or you're like, I'm not trying to be on nobody's camera, it's time to change that. It's time to change that. Because this Zoom audition is when they're deciding, can this family be on television? So get comfortable with the webcam, turn your camera on. And you know what really helps me? Sometimes I just go in a Zoom room by myself. And I just record, and I just talk, and I record so that I can watch it back and see how I sound. So before the audition, a couple of things before the Zoom audition. You need to decide, what family name are we using? This is so important because, as you can see, they're going to use it as your introduction on the show. The other thing you have to make sure and be certain about is what city and state you are representing. I know you may think it's obvious, but it may not be. So for us, we became the Robbins family, even though I know my mother's last name is not Robbins. My brother-in-law's last name is not Robbins, but I'm Robbins, my husband Robbins, my mother-in-law Robbins. Baby, I put in that application, I'm the captain, we Robbins. Okay, that's my last name. That's the name that we're rocking with. But at first, when I put in the written application, I said Clayton, North Carolina, because that is where I live. That's where my husband lives. But when we started talking about it as a family, as a unit, Raleigh actually represented us as a family better. That's where we were raised, me and my husband. That's where we met. That's where we went to high school. Our families clearly lived in Raleigh because we were raised there. So we actually told the producer, change it from Clayton, North Carolina to Raleigh, North Carolina, because that holistically, Melvin was also raised in Raleigh, like holistically, that is what represents our entire family the best. So you need to know that needs to be another honest conversation that you and your family have. And if you are the captain, then that's your responsibility to kind of have and host that conversation. So let me say this, getting casted isn't the end. So you have the Zoom audition, you meet the producers, you tell your story, you play the game, And what happens after the audition, the Zoom audition? Here's something that people don't realize. Being accepted does not mean you immediately are going to be on the show. Once you have, after your audition, your Zoom audition, the producers will make a decision if they want to bring you into what is called the casting pool. If you have been here from the beginning, you have heard me say that I put in this application and we did this Zoom audition in 2023. We went to Atlanta to record Family Feud in 2026. That is 3 years after our application, after our audition. So, after your audition, you are going to get an email. I'm sorry, we will not be moving forward with putting you in the casting pool, or hopefully, congratulations, you are being put in the casting pool. What does that mean? That means that you are eligible, you are approved. We think you would be a great family for Family Feud. And so we are putting you basically in the waiting room. You are now with all the families who have put in applications and who have done this audition that we think would be good for TV, and you go into the waiting room until it is your turn. If we're being honest, it may never be your turn, and then maybe it is your turn. You go into the casting pool for 3 years. And every year and every year they send you an email. So you're going in the waiting game. We submitted our application in 2023. 3 years later, we taped. Why? Because multiple things. Again, this is a TV show. They have probably people, even though it was year 1 for us, it could have been year 3 for somebody else. You just never know. That's why you have to chalk it up to the producers and just do your best and trust that they know how to cast for their show, because there's so many variables here. But one thing that does matter is availability. So every year that you are in the casting pool, they send you an email saying, okay, we're about to come up on recording this new season of Family Feud. Here are all the dates that we are going to be taping Family Feud. Get with your family and let us know all of the dates where y'all are available. And as the captain, if you are the captain, they are sending the email only to you. Once again, if you're the captain, you have to be ready to hold a lot of information and to be organized and to be the liaison for everybody on your team. So, I had to then get with everybody on the team every year and say, all right, y'all, here's this year's dates. Let me know by this date all of the dates that you are available. Now, life happens, right? And so I know for us in the first 2 years, my mother-in-law had a high position in her sorority. For us, Justice was still young. Our youngest daughter was very young. Our schedules just did not align for all 5 of us to have a lot of availability. So that when you don't submit as many dates and times, you just kind of lower your chances. Another thing that had happened in year 2, 2024, is that I got casted for Pressure Luck. And remember, the production company for Pressure Luck is the same production company for Family Feud. And in that contract, if you cannot play or be casted for another game show until 1 year after your air date. My episode aired in August of 2024, so I was not eligible to be on another game show until August 2025. Clearly didn't know that when I submitted the Family Feud application, because the Family Feud application was in 2023, remember? So again, life happens, things come up. But every year you are going to get that availability email. And then finally, in our last year of eligibility, they sent that email to the casting pool, and this last year, everything aligned. We had a lot of dates. My contract was up for Pressure Luck, and we all felt really good about that audition that we did 3 years ago, and we got casted. So that is when the process starts of when you actually get on the show. So I'll do another live here in the recent weeks or so about a part 2 to this. This was just the audition experience and my tips if you are interested in applying and auditioning for Family Feud, because they have officially opened the auditions. They have officially opened the application process. And if you have been here from the beginning, remember, we got our call. It's within 60 days. They are looking at these applications quickly. So I wanted to just make sure I did part 1 of the Family Feud experience so that if you were interested in doing your application, you had some tips from a family who got casted on the show. So here are some final thoughts. If you're thinking about applying, just do it. Shoot your shot. Why not? At the very least, there are people, the producers know your story. You do have to love the camera. I know. Once again, I get it. But if you are thinking about applying for Family Feud, you gotta love the camera. It's a large part of what is called a television show. And remember, you're not just applying to the game show, you are auditioning for television. You need to take this as seriously as an actor. You are auditioning for television at every stage, from the application to the Zoom audition to the waiting pool, is another opportunity to show producers why your family belongs to be behind that buzzer. Because at the end of the day, that's a good answer. Being on Family Feud, showing your family, telling your story, that is a good answer. So I hope that you got some great tips from this live. I hope it was beneficial for all my people who are watching back. Make sure you follow me. I'm going to put my link in the chat. Make sure you follow me and make sure you subscribe to my newsletter so you can know the next time that I am going live for part 2. And you can just see snippets of our experience and just get to know me a little better. So good luck on your application process. Go show them who you are and make sure you yell, good answer, good answer. Thanks, y'all. Talk to you later. Peace.